Good morning, everyone. It's August the 26th, 2023. Today, I want to talk about what happened this morning. When I woke up, I had got a very bad text this morning. It wasn't a very pleasant one. I got a text from a girlfriend of mine who had just lost her son to a drug overdose. This was a story I'd been following for the past week. He was on life support in the hospital. They had to take him off life support. Fortunately, they got the family there, and he passed away, I guess, sometime yesterday. And so she was texting everyone and letting us all know that she had finally lost him, and they had to let him go. So this was not a pleasant way to wake up this morning on a drug overdose on a friend of mine who I knew her, and I sort of knew her son, just barely, but again, another young person under the age of 40 has lost his life to a drug overdose. And of course, the first thing I did was I asked her, if he had been in the shelters down here, and she said no, he hadn't. He was living with his father. So this is another face of the opioid crisis that we don't talk about. We don't see it in the same manner as we see those who are homeless and in the shelters and on the streets and what we're going through. This is the quiet part of the overdose situation where things happen in people's homes. And the only good thing that came out of this was apparently that they were at least able to donate his 2 kidneys. So that gives 2 other people a second chance at life as well. But it's the sad reality of what we're facing today with these overdoses. You see, and it's not just like when we had the alcohol overdoses years ago, and addictions that we experienced. We talk about drinking and driving, and now we have to, it's not just drinking and driving, but now we have the overdoses, and who's high and driving. It's causing a lot of problems. And it's not just affecting the poor. Unfortunately, this whole situation is affecting everyone right across the board. That's the sad part of this. And when you've seen this and seen people go down, and like when I've described in some previous videos, for an example, I talk about the overdoses. In one of the videos I talked about prescription overdoses, and that was my second husband at the time, when he was addicted to painkillers because he was injured at work, and how that affected him and how it affected the family. So we have so many overdoses that are happening right across the board. It does not discriminate, unfortunately, on who these overdoses decide to attack. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be middle class. Doesn't matter what color you are. It just hits everyone. And the unfortunate part about it is that when you're on the street, you're the outcast on the street. And what happens is there's nobody there to hold your hand. And I compare it to what we just went through with the pandemic, and everyone, I'm sure, can relate to that. When our loved ones were in the hospital, and when they died, we couldn't even be there just to sit there and hold their hand. So this, and watch them pass on to the spirit world. And this is one of the things that's so hard on everyone. And the pandemic took its toll too. But it's also taken a toll on more overdoses. We've seen more mental health crisis because of it. And it's just getting worse. And we really need to put our heads together and try and find a way out of this, because this is only going to get worse and worse before it gets any better. So I don't have all the solutions, but I do want to report that this is happening, and it's not a funny thing. And the abuse, it's all coming out of the closet. We see so much abuse too with the homeless people here, as the other gentleman reported, who was a worker as well. Yes, the young people are worried about it being assaulted themselves. And then we talk about domestic abuse, and myself, I am not ashamed to say it. I am a 40-year survivor of domestic abuse, and drugs are part of it. Alcohol, in one case, was a part of it, but drugs are a big part of it, whether they were legal drugs or illegal drugs that we're dealing with here as well. But when I met Julie in 2010 in the shelter, after being separated from my husband and thrown in the shelter was where I ended up, I swore up and down that I would do whatever I could to help bring about the awareness of the abuse that was happening and give people a voice. So as hard as it was to try and get caught up with this new technology, because I've only had this phone now for a year, and it was I guess about 9 months ago that I actually started up the YouTube channel here. I started it as to give people a voice, to hear people's opinions, whether they were right, whether they were wrong. Everyone has a right to opinion, same as myself. Some people don't agree with me. That's fine. I can understand that. I can respect that. But we all have a choice to make. We all have our own opinions. But in these opinions, if we can put the opinions together and our voices together, perhaps we can come up to some solutions to solving these problems. So I just wanted to give you a short, brief update today, and there's so much more that I'm going to be putting on this channel about domestic abuse and everything else, about my experiences firsthand, so I understand the problem down here and how important it is to give people a voice. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, people need their voice. And I think it's today, in today's world, it's most important that we give people a voice as to how we should be doing things, coming out of abuse. And those coming out of abuse, we have a lot to say as well. That's for certain. And hopefully we can try and find a way through this perfect storm, as I call it right now, because our society is so upside down after the pandemic. And so I think we can do this, but it's a long road ahead, and I think we're going to see things get a lot worse before it gets better, because we're in a period in Earth's history right now, poor Mother Earth, that we're either going to survive together or we're going to crash land together, either one way or the other. So this is just a short video today, and I just wanted to bring you aware of a young man who just lost his life. But in losing his life, he was able to give a better life to 2 other people at this point. And thank you for listening. And again, I shall talk to you soon, and bye-bye. Take care.